Bill touched on a lot of things, and frankly, I'm a small business guy who's made a couple of choices that have changed my trajectory. And one of them happened about the time we were meeting when I bought my first Macintosh, 1987. I was a liberal arts guy with an English degree who sold myself to the devil to go sell stuff because I realized I wasn't going to be a writer for Sports Illustrated soon. And writers in 1985 coming out of college probably needed to write obituaries in Rochester, New York for 15 years. I didn't want to do that. So I got a sales job and I bought a Mac, and I started dabbling. I made my first database in a company I was working for at the time with Chuck Liu, and everything was paper, and I realized I wasn't a creative, but I wanted to be around the process. And I've long said, I think the genius of Steve Jobs was that he controlled the business part, the technology, and the OS. That theory has run throughout my career for 30-some years, and we're going to come back to that. I'm going to show you some ways to kind of code that up in things you make going forward. I've really stumbled on a couple of things over the years that have helped me a lot. So, kind of big picture. We're living today in a time of just radical digital change. I mean, it's faster than it's ever been before. I used to have these slides when I was at EDA. We had a thing of kind of history, right? The color television took 40 years to reach 75% of American homes. The VCR, which some of you don't know what that is, took 20. The internet took 10. The phones, it's unbelievable how. These are 10 years old. It's only a decade that we've been living with a computer in our pocket. That's radical fast. And when you see things like this about the hours of YouTube uploads in the last year went from 300, 400, 500 hours every 60 seconds. Every 60 seconds, right? The Facebook posts, many of which we know are now not from us. Instagram, the boom it's crazy. So how do you keep up? And more importantly, in a business, how do you keep up when, two guys in a garage or two girls in a garage are going to try to disrupt you, or, your competitors or your partners or your vendors? There's just all kinds of stuff right now. Incumbents have a hard time. I'm really interested today in some new technologies, specifically around Internet of Things and blockchain, but I'm watching the fintech story and the insurtech story just boom, which feels to me like the late 90s again, and so there's an awful lot of those things going on. So companies have to adapt faster than ever, right? You just have to. And we get set in our ways, right? We build a product, we serve our customers, we look at what the next quarter is going to be and what the quarter after that. And I know you guys are in the process of building a new product, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but I think most times when companies talk about innovation, they talk about this huge, lofty thing, right? And in a big company, and I don't think because you guys have a really good feel. I've really enjoyed meeting the people. This kind of from on high, it says, hey, I need you to innovate, and we need a product that's going to grow sales 30% next quarter and gain market share, and I'm going to put you in a room and brainstorm and come out with that answer. And those things don't happen. I'm sure they happen rarely. They fail more often than they succeed. But I think a lot of innovations happen every day, and how you're gaining efficiencies and how you deal with customers and how you improve your product. And so those are the things you need to do. I think there's tons of consultants who are trying to get in on, hey, I can help you with your innovation, and it's a big charge and it's an outside thing. And I'm imagining at your company's size, like in companies that I've been in the past, you can't afford to pay IBM or IDEO or McKinsey, right? So steal ideas. So this message today is all about stealing some ideas. I've been doing it for a long time. I think there's good things you guys can do. I have been kind of lucky. The last company I helped start in '99, it wasn't an overnight success. It took 16 years to turn it into an outcome that was really good. But as a result of that, we were married up to a Fortune 500 company. And I've gotten a lot of time to spend over the last 2 years with IBM, who I think, for a big company, is doing a lot of things well. Between their design thinking and their Watson, I was really interested in data, how we can make our business better with it. And their Internet of Things platform, they have actual customers, worldwide customers, Walmart, Maersk, companies who are using their tools and doing innovative things. IBM has tons of stuff on their site you can look at and take away from. You know, McKinsey does too. They're talking about digital disruption. Accenture does. They talk about, you know, AI is the new UI. IDEO is a company I've loved for a long, long time, and they've helped companies like Nike and Ford and Procter and Gamble, and they have a kind of a creative innovation session. A lot of books have come out of the IDEO founders. Tons of places there you can steal good ideas. That's a great one. Deloitte has bought one of the companies I'm going to talk about. They have a practice too. And so just, you know, you start to say, okay, Rob, and I had done this, part of this presentation I had done a few years ago at EDA, and we're going to really dig into, you know, how we made a digital product better. But, you know, I started to do a little bit more research. There's 7,000 results when you search the Harvard Business Review just for things they have around innovation. So, you know, is it big business for these consultants? Yes, right? Do you need to pay them? We don't, right? Absolutely not. So I'm going to tell this story a little bit backwards. I'm going to give the end of the story first, then we're going to talk about one example, and it's the Blade Runner project that Eric led and Ross and Bill are very familiar with. And then I'm going to dig into an innovation framework that I've used and improved upon in how I've done stuff, and I think you guys should be doing some of those same things. So 3 stories, right? Aflac was, so first off, that business, tech, and ease of use story has been part of my piece early on. And when we started Empowered, my web design business, Theologics, had pretty good success in Charlotte. And we had Bank of America, First Union, National Gypsum, Novant, Baker & Taylor were all customers who trusted us to do their online pieces. What their employees, their customers, their patients dealt with. How do you make that easy? You know, it's funny. In 1995, it was pretty easy to start a web design business, right? All you had to do was hang a shingle. There weren't many competitors. It was easy. But by 1997, you needed to compete with an awful lot of other people who had done the same thing. And I realized quickly, and it was an employee who brought this idea forward. He said, Rob, I've been reading about Jacob Nielsen and usability. We need to make sure that our design isn't just pretty. It needs to be useful. And so we all started reading these things. Sun Microsystems had pushed a big story down. Anyway, I'm digressing a little bit, but we built a usability lab in '97 with a one-way mirror. And we started testing everything we did with actual customers, from wireframe to design. That was a radical, innovative way to make design be less subjective. And as a result, you know, we ended up with those big corporate customers we talked about. He said, look, I've done this pretty stuff, and our customers are still complaining, right? My customers can't figure out how to reorder checks or pay their bills on time. My patients are not happy with the patient portal. And so that process of making sure that everything on a page has a reason for a customer, or whoever's using it, right, your users, really became kind of ingrained in the process. Flash forward. 99, I had a friend who was, he was an acquaintance, and he had a brokerage business that helped companies your size, my size, shop for healthcare. And he said, Rob, I'm just sick and tired of going to my customers and saying, hey, the best I can do for you is a 20% increase next year. And that's how healthcare is for companies, as you guys may or may not know. And he said, can't you take your web skills and turn it into something where we can have an e-commerce store that my customers, employees, can shop for the best medical plans for them? Well, I knew nothing about insurance, but as a web guy, I said, that's pretty straightforward, right? I think we can do that. I was wrong. I mean, it took years. It took a long, long time, right? We needed laws to get passed. We needed, the insurers didn't want to play. Blue Cross didn't want to let United see those patients and compete for them, and they still don't, right? It's a big mess. But we got started on this path to build Empowered Benefits as an online enrollment solution. And we leveraged really good technology of some guys that had come out of banking and made brokerage and bill pay easy, right? You can imagine the back office of what goes to United is different than what goes to Delta Dental, is different than what goes to Blue Cross, is different than what goes to Aflac, is different than what goes to Transamerica Life Insurance. They're all different, right? There's no standardization. So our kind of strength was we had these very good technical people who said, I'll take all that And then we applied that layer of ease of use so that employees don't see that problem. You know, at the end of the day, customers don't care about that complexity. They don't want to see that. They just want to know, is this the right plan for my family? So we built this product, and way before Aflac was involved, we were lucky enough to sell some big customers. We had some Charlotte contacts. We sold Harris Teeter. You know, they have 25,000 employees. Harris Teeter became a really good case study for us. Then we sold H.H. Gregg, and we sold Atlantis Crackers, and we sold Bilo, I think. We had a couple others. And ultimately, Coca-Cola Bottling, ultimately, we were able to sell Lowe's Home Improvement Stores. They had 250,000 employees. Lowe's has 50 feeds to all these different things, right? That's a nationwide deal. And we were a 20-person company in Charlotte who was supporting Lowe's HR with this great product. Lowe's led Baguette to something else, and that became Aflac, who said, hey, can you build something for us that's a way for our salespeople to deal with our customers? Now, I was telling the story to Bill earlier. You know, this is it's a sales story, but it's a, you know, how do you, if you're a small business, how do you make one sale become many? This was a distribution story for us. We got excited. Aflac has 450,000 small businesses who buy from them. They have almost 70,000 salespeople. We were a 20-person business, and if I could leverage 70,000 salespeople in 450 businesses, that's a win, right? So we bent over backwards to build a proposal that made a lot of sense for them, and I'm sure we undercharged for what we built. But they had an excellent idea, which was, we're going into a small business, and our salespeople just sell Aflac products, right? Just ancillary accident plans, a couple things that Aflac has. It's easy to get pushed out, right? Allstate can come in there the next day and have something a little bit better. Somebody else can. So they said, this was a very good strategy. It didn't pan out, but it was a very good strategy of how do we keep the market share we have and make something stronger? We're in all these businesses. What if we offered them medical, dental, and vision, plus Aflac? So they partnered with United Medical, United Healthcare. They partnered with Delta Dental, Vision from VSP, somebody for life, I can't remember. But anyway, we built this market basket, and they started rolling it out to their employees, to their salespeople. And they found out that if they used our product, the Empower Benefits product, they sold more Aflac product. They never quite got how to compensate the salespeople right, and so it ended up becoming a really good thing for selling Aflac. They never sold very much United. But first they had 50 customers, then they had 100, then they had 500, then they had 1,000, and pretty soon they got to a place where, you know, they were like, hey, we need it. We were a very good contract. We owned 100% of the intellectual property of this software. And so they said, we either need to own that or close it. And we went through a process, and ultimately, long story short, they paid a premium for a small company that had done something that they couldn't do, that was innovative and easy to use. And today, you know, they're ramping it up across all their customers, and they've decided that it's the best enrollment software they have, and they're sunsetting a 20-year-old piece of software they had, right? Small company, thinking about ease of use, good technology, business proposition. Biologics did earn kind of a pretty good reputation in the 90s and early 2000s of making things easy to use. One of our best case studies was a company called Creatas, which sold royalty-free stock photography. Creatas was based in New York. Later, I think they got bought by one of the big boys, either Corbis or Getty. But when they rolled out our new design, which was a fast project, like 6 months total, their next year they increased their sales 147%. That was making design be real to the business people, right? And the case study was so good that Jacob Nielsen, one of our people we've been reading for 10 years now, used it in a ROI PDF that he sold as a consulting deal as a great use for how you make design business-wise. And it actually won a South by Southwest award in the early 2000s, 2002 or 3. So again, ease of use is a recurring thing. The third one is the one we're going to spend most time on today. And this is EDA Online, or Project Blade Runner, it was called at the time. And Bill lets me say this number, but he may change it. Bill can make the number bigger if he wants to. But the first year we rolled it out, it increased their sales by 20%. And importantly, we paid 100% of the development costs back in the first 12 months. Eric, am I wrong, right?
You're good.
Better than that? Good at that? Good with that. So,
I'll say top line grew 20%, which was over $2 million, but bottom line grew 30% that first year. And the second year was we had more sales. It grew faster in the second year than it did in the first year from a total dollar standpoint.
So, even though Bill and I go back a long way, he didn't like how this project started. So he hired me to be the VP of Sales and Marketing. I was there about a month, and I said, God, this product we have just sucks. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, Bill, there's this thing called the internet. You need to use that. Anyway, it was a testy time in our relationship. So how we did it, right? Don't make design that's wow. I have a lot of favorite people that I've kind of read, and one of my all-time favorites is Guy Kawasaki, who was one of the original Apple employees and had the coolest title ever in the late 80s and early 90s of Chief Apple Evangelist. But he writes a couple of good books, and I go back to him often. One of my favorites is The Art of the Start, where he talks about make meaning, right? Don't make stuff. Don't make a mission statement. Don't make widgets. Don't just make a product. And he said, frankly, if you're a startup and you're trying to just make money, that's going to fail too. He goes, you have to make meaning for your customers. I've been doing this a long time. I've found that more often than not, when I do things that are meaningful for the end users, I figure out how to make a little money. So, the EDA thing, there's 5 simple steps, and it's really this easy. What are your unique business needs? And I know you guys are already out of the gate. You're way down the path on this, I'm sure you're doing, right? Who are your customers and what do they need to do? How can this product really be differentiated in the marketplace? You get into requirements, definitions, and then the ideal user experience, which I'll keep hammering on. Jacob Nielsen really is a boring guy, right? His useit.com site is all these articles. They've been doing this really since he was with Sun Microsystems in the 80s. But there is great story there about get rid of the extra stuff that gets in the way of transactions, of your users using your stuff. So the EDA business needs were look, it was time to build a modern framework. How old was the product, the Catapult product, when we get started on that?
So it was really 2006 was when we released the original version of what that was. So we went to market in 2013 with the next version.
Yeah.
So
it was a little long in the tooth. Allow for information expansion. At that point, they were looking to buy other data, mash things together. It was harder to put it together. Reduce costs, actually leverage web standards, and create something that was a simple interface. Now, here's the why was your baby ugly? It was cringeworthy, but it was the market leader, okay? Right?
yes.
Market leader. But it was really, you picked things in a query and you downloaded an Excel file, right? That's what it was, and that's what a lot of software was. And so, this was 2010, I was like, Bill, you're 15 years behind, man. We got to do this. I was an ugly employee. He should have fired me right there. And things like this, right? Query was really a search. If you're a customer, the word is search, not query. So we had to kind of work through that. But this is the first. I'll show you the end. The second piece is listen to your customers. And I know, you guys do that. You have a great customer support thing. You get email requests all the time. We did some surveys that gave us great feedback. We actually did A/B testing and beta testing, but listen to them. Jobs is the only one who ever said, don't listen to customers. He was unique, and that he had this vision of what the world really needed. None of us are Steve Jobs, and so I think your customers can point you a lot of the ways, the right direction of how to make their lives easier. The information age really kind of changed with the internet, where companies let customers get more entrenched in their companies. The tighter they get to support, the harder it is for them to leave. When we first started doing bank sites, the banks were worried because, geez, with one click you can open a new account, which means with one click you can leave and go across the street to the other bank, right? But what they found over time was, with one click I open a checking account, and then the next thing I do is I start to do bill pay, and then maybe I buy some insurance, and then I'm looking at something else, and I might do brokerage, and before you know it, the customer's pretty entrenched. unfortunately for banks, unfortunately for us as consumers, banks also realize my customer service doesn't have to be great once they're that entrenched, right? It's a pain in the butt for them to leave. They're not gonna. So, but get them deeper into your company. Take away roadblocks for them doing business with you. This is a tactic that I started years ago, and it's actually, we made ball cards, right? It's like a baseball card. So in the EDA project, we came down to 5 major customer types, and we made these made up people, right? This is Tim, right? Tim's 55, he's married, he's a territory sales manager. Here's what he's doing, here's what he needs our data for, here's how he uses it. And we printed these out, and they go, and there were 5 in this, I didn't print all of them. And it goes on the project manager's desk, and it goes in the developer's area, and it's all the times. And so when people come to you during the project and say, hey, it would also be cool if we added this. That's a great idea, but does that help Tim, right? This is never gonna happen in your company, but a lot of places, the chief executive says, hey, I really wanted to have a spinning Google, You're like, great, but Tim, who pays your salary, doesn't want a spinning Google. Let's make sure that we serve Tim. So, simple tactic, but personas that are really good help you clean up a lot of the detritus that ends up being feature-itis later. Gives you a much better chance for improving in the customer experience. We're going to dig into this much deeper, and this is going to be the platform, but I don't know what year I heard Larry Keeley speak. The Doblin Institute is a consultant. They were based out of Chicago, who had researched for 120 years worth of companies that were really innovative, from Henry Ford to Cirque du Soleil, a circus with no animals, right? And he tried to figure out what were the things that were unique and differentiated in those very innovative businesses. And their hypothesis was there are not going to be similarities, right? In these, I think they had 1,500 or 1,800 kind of companies that they looked at. Their hypothesis was proved wrong, and it turned out to be just 10 silos of innovation, 10 different ways that businesses innovate. And it's things like business model, core processes, products, features, the whole way over to customer experience and what you and I would think of as UI, right? And then in those 10 types, he found that the companies that really had earth-shattering, groundbreaking, innovative products that changed the market did at least 5 of them at the same time. So I wanted to apply this framework to all the features we were looking to add to EDA Online and make sure we weren't just navel-gazing and doing one thing. The things that are least valuable and add the least value in the market and to your company are products, or product enhancements, or features. And that's where we all start, right? The things that are most valuable are on the outside. Ease of use and different types of business models. In EDA's case, we changed to go into 12-month sales and offered some free trials over here. We put a really nice ease of use on it. We actually had an iPad solution and channels things that were great. We had a ton of things, that were data visualization. I don't know if you guys can read this from that far back. Better search tools, server-based analytics. Eric helped us kind of phase it out. Of course, we wanted to do he made us put it in 2 phases. But,
InvestCorp made us do that.
InvestCorp made us do that. Truth be told, we got to a place where I thought we were touching 8 of the 10 in the product we launched first, phase 1. 8 of the 10 columns. And that was as much as I'd ever done in a product. And we had some success.